Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are at today. Thank you so much for joining today's live event. I'm really excited to be here today and even more excited because it is a special day, March 8th, International Women's Day. Good morning. And so if you celebrate or if you want to celebrate, type celebrate or happy in the chat. If you're celebrating or want to celebrate International Women's Day, type happy in the chat. I really appreciate you being here. And I never really thought I would be here today. It's holidays like that often have me reflecting back on various life events and coming here first as an immigrant and with 2 suitcases and a lot of hope, faith, determination, climbing the corporate ladder until a few events of adversity led me to realize I was climbing the corporate ladder. One of them was restructuring and corporate layoffs happening at my now former firm. And this really got me thinking I need to do something else. I need to do something different because what if I am next? And so I doubled down on investing in real estate. And a few years later, when my firm, now former firm, went through another restructuring round, I was impacted. But thankfully, I was prepared, and real estate gave me that optionality. But a lot of it actually started with underwriting, right? The ability to vet and analyze deals so I can make sound investment decisions and minimize the risk of loss, which is one of the many reasons that I'm passionate about underwriting, specifically apartment underwriting, and why I do what I do today to help many other investors. But before we dive into the slides, my name is Vessi Kapulian. I'm a former commercial lender, now turned real estate investor, and I have the pleasure of helping investors new to multifamily learn how to effectively and efficiently analyze and underwrite apartment deals so they can minimize the risk of loss, even if they've never underwritten a deal before. I've helped nearly 20 students so far and look forward to helping many more. And so today's topic is one that I'm very frequently asked about. How do I start underwriting? So if you're new to underwriting or feel like you still need some help underwriting, tap new to in the chat. And when you type new in the chat, it also, or interact with me in the chat, it also allows me to see who's here. You can also interact with one another so we can help each other. So type new in the chat if you're new to multifamily underwriting or feel like you need a little bit more hand holding, because I will help you with that. And if anything, my goal is to help you get started if you haven't yet started. So while I bring up the slides, I'll give you another minute or second to respond. And here we are. Perfect. So can you guys see the slides? Looks like kind of small on my end, so let me see. Okay, that should be a little better. All right. All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get started. So what we'll cover today, first, who this is for, because again, this class may or may not be the right fit for everyone. Why should you even listen to me? I provided a very brief background in the beginning, but I'll share a little bit more. Then we'll dive into the top 10 steps to get started. To get started underwriting, I do have a special announcement and a gift that I want to share with you just because you took the time to attend today's live event. And I'll hang out for a little bit to answer some of your questions. I received a couple ahead of this live event, so I'll make sure to address those as well. But first, let's talk about you. Attending this masterclass is the perfect next step in your investing journey. If you are new to multifamily, you're new to deal analysis, you're working full time and busy as it is, you feel intimidated by the process and overwhelmed by all the information out there. But above all else, you want to avoid making costly mistakes and protecting your hard earned money when investing. But before we dive in, why should you even listen to me? My name is Vessi Kapulyan. I'm an active multifamily investor. Again, I don't just teach theory, I am active in the space, doing deals today, and have been doing deals for a number of years. I'm a former commercial lender and risk manager where I handled a pretty sizable, a billion, or actually slightly over $1 billion portfolio and have transacted over 300 million in real estate. And frankly, I probably need to update that number because it's grown since then. I have underwritten over 500 deals, and that's another number I stopped tracking, but it's probably more than 1,000 at this point in multifamily alone, as well as in other asset classes. But most importantly, I've helped many active and passive investors in the space learn how to vet deals, so I know I can help you as well. But of course, these are not just my words. I wanted to share with you a small sample of success stories that some of my students, now of course alumni, have accomplished. So this is Marcus. He has a full-time job, busy as it is. He's also investing passively, but really wanted to dig into the details and understand how are multifamily deals underwritten, how are they evaluated, so he can make sound investment decisions. And so he followed the steps in class and is now able to analyze deals effectively and efficiently. He knows where to start from so he can be efficient with his time and not spend hours and hours plowing through offering memorandums. This is Erin, another successful student. She's also working full time. So again, doing busy as it is and building her real estate portfolio on the side. She had some real estate experience, but again was looking to learn how to vet deals so she can be a steward, strong steward, and fiduciary for her investors. She followed the steps and is now able to pierce through a deal and effectively figure out, is this a good deal or a bad deal where I want to put my money and my investors' money. And this is Daniel. So he also has a full-time job. He's had actually some real estate experience, especially, but what he was looking for was additional perspective, particularly in multifamily. And so he found a ton of value in the lender background that I bring to the table, and thinking through how to evaluate a deal through a lender's lens, because that's also important to consider and understand when you are investing. I wanted to share with you that I have a special offer for you just for taking the time to show up at this live event. I really appreciate you, and I will share that with you in just a moment. So, with that said, let's dive into the top 10 steps that you can start taking today. And before we go into the presentation, could I have your commitment that you will take at least one of those steps, not all of them, just at least one, and implement it today? Type yes in the chat if I can have your commitment that you will implement at least one of these steps today. Because I promise you, what I'll share with you today is something that you can take action on immediately. Now, if you'd like to download a copy of the guide that comes with this training, feel free to scan the QR code and it will be emailed to you shortly after this live event. And I know the process can be really overwhelming. So many of you are asking, well, where do I even start? So don't worry. I will hold your hand. We'll go through the 10 steps today. And I will share with you additional resources that you can tap into. And as I promised, I will hang a little bit longer to answer your questions. And again, I do have a couple that people submitted in advance, so I will make sure to address those. So, step number one, probably one of the most important steps, is focus. Focus on a market. For example, Orlando, right? Florida is not a market. There are a lot of markets within Florida, like Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, Miami. These are markets in and of themselves, and they're each unique. Asset class, again, I focus on multifamily, but real estate is a very diverse industry. You could be doing self-storage, hotels, student housing, assisted living facilities, industrial warehouses, and so much more. So focus on an asset class, focus on an asset type, class B properties, for example. And if you are lost or not familiar with any of the terminology that I'm bringing up, I do cover that in more detail in my course. So you can go to masteringmultifamilyunderwriting.com for more details, or you can simply send me a DM and I'll get your questions answered. So class B, those would be not completely old, but also not brand new buildings in relatively good condition, but with some opportunity to update those. So that would be an asset type. And then the business plan. Are you doing brand new construction? Are you doing a value add? Are you just buying and holding a brand new class A building? These are all different business plans that require different strategies, different financing structures, have different return expectations, and so much more. So this really reminds me of a story, or I meet a lot of new investors who come to me overwhelmed, and very quickly in the conversation I'm able to zero in on what some of the reasons for that overwhelming confusion is, because often I find they may be jumping from market to market or an asset class to an asset class. And not that you cannot learn all of these over time, but especially as you're starting, it is extremely important to focus. And so I have actually a couple of examples with you with very, very successful investors who focused on an asset class, a strategy, and market, and have been very prosperous over time. So Albert Beritz is someone who I look up to. He is in the multifamily space, a founder and owner of McKinley. He focuses on apartment buildings and currently in the Florida market. So hyper focused on an asset class, strategy, and market. Now, self-storage, I mentioned, that's another class in real estate. So one of the people that comes to mind is AJ Osborne. He's the founder and owner of Cedar Creek Capital. And what he and his firm do is only self-storage facilities with the opportunity to add value. And they do the management and operations of those. So hyper focused. And then another one in multifamily, you may recognize the face and the name, and that's Grant Cardone with Cardone Capital, who focuses on Class A large multifamily properties. And he has holdings in a number of markets, but his primary one is Florida. Again, ultra focus on the market, strategy, and business class. Now, step number two, once you've determined which asset class, market, and strategy I want to focus on, is really getting the tools that you need. And one of the most important tools is being able to select an underwriting model. Now, there are a lot of models out there, so I would say choose one that you like and stick to it. You can always switch later when you master the art and science of underwriting. But in the beginning, it's extremely important to just stay consistent with one, because each model is unique in and of itself. And so the same deal that you underwrite using different models will yield slightly different results, which will confuse you. At least I actually tried this in the beginning, and I ended up spending more time on the analysis and still not being able to figure out what is the difference. Eventually, I do, after hours and hours of comparing and contrasting different models, but that's not the point. In the beginning, you really want to master the art and the science, get efficient, get good at it, and then you can very easily switch back and forth between models. And once you understand how the different properties or the different models work, the different levers that you can pull, you'll be able to very quickly figure out what the differences are as well. Number three is extremely important. Now you have the focus and the strategy, you have the tools. Now you need your team and forming your extended team. Relationships, relationships, relationships. That's extremely important in any space, but especially in real estate and multifamily. Developing relationships with third parties such as your broker, your lender, your insurance broker, your contractor, that's invaluable, because very often they will give you feedback or information that you can use to validate, sensitize the inputs or the assumptions for your model in order to derive the outputs or the pro formas and the valuations. I also recommend is getting a mentor to help you and guide you through the process. I had a mentor and a coach when I started. I still work with multiple mentors and coaches in various categories because I want to learn, grow, and improve. And underwriting is no different. Having that coach and guide by your side to help you and hopefully help you avoid some of the big mistakes and landmines, so you don't have to pay dearly for those with your own money, or even worse, that of your investors. So I do help many investors in the space, and if you'd like to learn more how and what I do, feel free to send me a DM directly. Local knowledge is crucial. Reminds me again of a story where when I was looking for deals or sourcing deals, that one in particular was in the Tampa market. I received the offering from the broker with a certain level of pro forma rents. I think it was maybe 1700, maybe slightly above 1700 at the time, in an area that was described to me as up and coming. Now, I did my diligence, something seemed off. So guess what? I called my property manager. I had a couple. I called one of them, and what they shared with me was that this area had been up and coming for the last 10 plus years, which was a red flag from the beginning. But secondly, they affirmed my estimates of what a good pro forma rent would look like. And by good, I mean realistic, right? Not a pie in the sky assumptions, but something that's realistic and supportable. And I ended up passing on the deal. I didn't move forward. I will tell you now, it's been I think 5 years, 4 or 5 years later. That area is still up and coming. hasn't really changed materially. And rents there are barely hitting 1700. Now again, I'm talking 4 or 5 years later for something that was presented as, oh, you can easily hit those in year one. So forming your team, getting a mentor and a guide, and really knowing and understanding your local market. Number four is understanding the risk. This is not a get rich quick scheme. So if you're looking to get rich quickly, this is not the asset class or the industry for you. All investments carry risk. In real estate, apartments, they're no different, which is why it is extremely important to understand those risks, risks, analyze them, and determine, is this a risk that I can mitigate? Am I comfortable with it? If I cannot mitigate it, am I comfortable moving forward? In performing the sensitivity analysis as well, so you can determine how these various risks can impact your investment, the profitability and the valuation, the cash flows of your investment. Now, I do actually have a guide on the 10 key risks in real estate, and if there is enough interest, I'm happy to cover those in more detail in future live events. So if you'd like a copy of the guide or the 10-part video series, or if you'd like me to cover any of those, simply send me a DM and I'll be happy to get all your questions answered. So it's important to understand all of that because, again, understanding the risks then feeds into your analysis and really helps you protect your hard-earned money. Number 5, repetition is power. I had to break the news to you, but this is not a one and done type of process. You have to underwrite hundreds of deals before you feel comfortable. You don't learn by watching, you learn by doing. When you go to the gym, you build muscle by exercising regularly. And then over time, you increase the intensity or the weights that you exercise with. Underwriting is no different. So you start by analyzing your first deal, and then the second and the third. And this is something I can help you with. I've helped many investors in the space do that successfully. When I first started sourcing deals, it took me almost 200 deals before I found the one. So it's really a numbers game at the end of the day, not something that's easy. I wish I could tell you, hey, this is the easy button. Again, if you're looking for easy or quick results, I would say this is not for you. There will be work you will need to do. One, getting educated and understanding the process, but two, actually doing the work. You're not going to learn this watching. And so practice is the skill that really separates the amateurs from the professionals. You need to build that muscle power. You need to get those reps in to practice, practice, practice. And then I have a couple more steps. As I thought about it, I realized this will be a really, really long live event, and I really want to leave some time for questions. So the other 5 steps that you see around letting the debt structure, setting cap rates, establish adequate reserves, setting realistic top line assumptions, normalizing expenses. I can probably have a master class on each of those. And if there is enough interest, I'm happy to do that during subsequent live events. So just DM me and let me know. But I actually do cover those in more details in my course, Mastering Multifamily Underwriting. And I have case studies, examples that my students and I work through. So here, just sharing a snippet of those, and happy to chat in more detail if you guys are interested. So there's only so much I can squeeze into a short live event. So if you'd like to learn more, you can join me in following or joining as a student, masteringmultifamilyunderwriting.com. This is the signature course that I offer that helps investors who are new to the space learn how to underwrite a deal from beginning to start. And it's not just the course. The real value of the program is I have at least today it's free, but when you purchase the course, you also join a community of other investors in the space, active and passive, who are looking to continue to improve their underwriting skills. In the community, I post at least once a week tips and strategies, updates that are relevant to not only to the underwriting process, but overall investing in multifamily, getting your first property found and selected and vetted, letting sponsors, and so much more. And Once a month, I also host live group calls. Once in a while, I also throw in bonus calls. So once or twice a month, I get together with my students, and again, we discuss topics that are relevant to them, not only about underwriting, but other important aspects of multifamily investing. And so it will be my pleasure to work with you and help you master the art and science of underwriting. I did promise a special gift for you for taking the time to show up at today's masterclass, and that's a 20% discount from the regular price for the course. So you can DM me deal, or you can text deal at 318-490-0671. You see that information on the screen. This offer is only valid for this live event weekend, and in honor of March 8th, which happens to be a big holiday. So it will be valid through midnight on March 9th if you'd like to take advantage of the promotion. And with that, I will open it up to questions. So I'll give you a moment to ask the questions. And while you're putting those in the chat, I will start with a couple that were submitted in advance. So I'd like to honor those and make sure we get those covered. So one of them is, how do I select the model? Well, there are a lot of models out there, and as I mentioned, ultimately choose the one that works best for you. But if you need a couple of suggestions, feel free to DM me, and I'll happily share those with you. It's also not uncommon for many people to, when they start with a model, they figure out how the process works, and then they build their own. So I see that happen very frequently as well. But when you're just starting, and if you need suggestions, just send me a DM. We can connect, and I'll get your questions answered. Now, another question is, you mentioned some of the when I underwrite deals, I have a hard time selecting the right level of reserves. So that really varies depending on the business plan or the property. But I'd like to start with a minimum of 6 months of operating expenses. Ideally, 6 months of operating expenses and debt service. But how far you go or how much you reserve really depends on the business plan, how much value add you have, where the property is, what type of work is required. So I actually do cover that in more detail in my course, and there are active deals that my students bring to me. So I help them get those evaluated and serve as that second set of eyes and ears and a sounding board. And so that's one of the benefits of being able to work with a guide and mentor. And I have one more question here, again, more technical, pertaining to cap rates and what is the delta or the change in cap rates between entry and exit that you typically implement. And I'll say it varies, right? Depends again on the business plan, market, asset class, as well as the timing of the cycle, right? If you had asked me 2-3 years ago what type of cap rate expansion I model for my deals, I would have said maybe 20, maybe even 25 basis points, because rates were extremely low at the time, and the expectation was that they will be rising and keep rising, which is what happened. Today, do I increase it by 20, 25 basis points? Not, because rates are at their peak. So a lot of it depends, but rates are not the only factor, right? That drives cap rates. So that's my approach to that. So again, I do cover that in more detail in the course. If you'd like to learn more, go to masteringmultifamilyunderwriting.com. And if you'd like to take advantage of the special 20% off discount that's only valid this weekend through midnight on March 9th, send me a DM and I'll send you the link so you can take advantage of that promotion. Or you can also text me at 4900671. Text deal, and I'll be able to send you that link with the promotional offer. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate you. I wish you the best day ever. And follow me on LinkedIn and YouTube if you'd like to be notified of future live events. I will be hosting these a lot more often. And I hope to see you at the next one. Ciao.